Hello, welcome to Scrap Time. My name is Christine, and in this video I'm going to be making a card using a variety of products from Wendy Vecchi. In this video I'm going to show you how to make this card using a variety of products from Wendy Vecchi. The first thing we're going to do is start by stamping the circle onto our card. So I'm using the Tim Holtz stamping platform. And I'm actually working on a larger card this time. This is a 5x7 card. The other one was a 4x6. And I'm just putting it in place. Now what's important is I'm lining it up here in the corner because I'm going to be removing the card and then placing it back on later to stamp again. I am starting with this Circle Collage stamp. And I sort of like this sort of design here on the edge, so I'm sort of lining it up where I want it on my card. Maybe like that. And then we're closing it up. You can see here I am on the rubber side of the platform because I'm going to be stamping with a rubber stamp. And I'm using Archival ink in black, because I'm going to be using water over this after, so I want a waterproof ink. Now this first time, if it's not completely stamped is fine, because I am using this as a guide. So having it like that is just fine with me, because I just need to know where the circle is going. Then I'm going to remove it and put my platform aside. Now, even though this is a waterproof ink, I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun for a moment, just so I know that the ink won't run, to make sure the ink is dry. So the next step I want to do is add some gesso texture in that circle. So I have this stencil here with a bunch of little dots, and I'm going to lay it on. And so now I can see that circle, and so I know where to put my gesso. I'm using white gesso from the Crafter's Workshop because I had it handy, but any gesso works for this. Give it a little stir. So now when I'm putting my gesso in, I want to be careful because I just want to get it within that circle. So I'm going to put some just on the tip of my palette knife to go around. If you get some outside the circle, that's fine. But it just helps to show you where your working area is. Basically like that. I remove it, and you should be able to see those little dots there. So now the next thing I'm going to do is completely dry the gesso so we can move on to the next step. So now it is time to color in the image, and for this I'm going to use the Dina Wakley Media Scribble Sticks. You can use many different mediums, but these are really fun to use. They're a pigment, sort of like a crayon. So I'm just going to randomly color in within my circle. The more pigment you put on, the more color there will be. I'm going to try and get between some of these circles. I'm working with the pink, yellow, orange colors. It's always good to work with colors you know will work well together. Put a little red. Now I can do this first layer, and if I want to add more color, you always can. So I'm just squirting some water on my craft mat, and with a brush I'm going to now activate those colors and paint them out. So you can see how the gesso picks up the color differently than the paper, giving us that texture. Need a bit more water. And there we have our colored in background. So I'm going to dry it before we move on to the next step. So now that my background is gessoed and colored in, I'm ready to re-stamp over my circle. So nothing has moved. I left the stamp on my platform. I put the paper back in the corner, and I'm going to ink up my stamp again. Now I'm stamping on a watercolor paper which has some bumps to it. So when you're stamping on a bumpy paper, sometimes you might do it a couple times just to make it nice and dark. And that's pretty good. Because it's bumpy, I'm not going to get that crisp image. Now when I did my original card here, I used the Tim Holtz watercolor paper where you have one side is bumpy and one side is smooth. So I was stamping on a smooth image, and for this one I had used distress crayons to color in the background. So that's why you're seeing a difference between the two. So now that my circle is done, I'm going to remove that stamp. Now I'm going to be putting on a vase and a flower. These are from Wendy's Matte Minis. And I already have them here, and I colored them with the crayons again. And I'm going to add in this stamp. This is from this stamp set here called Flourishing Art. And it's this little flourish stamp here, and I'm going to add it just behind where the flower is going to go. So I'm just sort of looking where that stem will be. So it'll sort of be like that. So I'm going to stamp that on. And again, because of the textured background, I might have to do it twice. It's pretty good. I'll do it one more time just to make it a little darker, but it's actually not that bad. I'm also stamping over top of the gesso and the inks. So there, now we have a really dark image. So when I go to put my vase on, it's like that. Now before I put on my vase though, I want to put on my sentiment. So for that, I am using this sentiment here from the Mix and Match Art. This one down here, Our World is More Beautiful Because of Flowers and Art. And so I put my vase down so I know where it's going to sit. And then I might put the sentiment off a bit more on this one since it's a bigger card. So I might do something more like that. And I'll just do it one more time to make it a little darker because I am stamping on top of black as well. Okay. So now to finish up, I've got my vase here. I'm going to glue that on. The mats have a double thing here, so if you had an actual little stem you want to put for your flower, there's the space for the stem there. So that's sort of fun, but I'm just using the stamp as my stem. And then I have a flower here that will just go over top of that flourish. And I have the little inside of the flower. I'm gonna put a little glue drop there. And I didn't color it because what I'm going to do now is use my Nuvo glitter. This is Blue Lagoon glitter drops. Just put that in the middle. So there we have our completed card. Just to recap, I stamped the circle background, the collage circle, so we knew our spot. We gessoed inside it. We then used the scribble sticks to add some color. We re-stamped the circle. We stamped a flourish and the greeting, and then we added on our matte minis to complete our card. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to Scrap Time videos on YouTube. In the meantime, here are a couple other videos you might be interested in watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.